Hello, Shabbat Shalom. If you can, turn around and look at the reflection. Isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah, isn't it? It is so beautiful.
So beautiful.
I know. People don't always get the chance.
I know.
Yeah. And it gets more, like as it gets darker outside.
Yes.
The light coming from the reflection just grows. It's really cool.
It's just magnificent. It's beautiful.
Hello, Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah. It's increased the reflective property of it. Wow. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shalom.
You know, on a night like this, with the sort of the crisp way it smells in the air, you can really tell that the seasons are turning. And as you know, sometimes as we look back to the warmth of summer and lament the fact that time is passing, when we look around and see the beauty around us, the changing of the colors of the trees, and the fact that time is passing, it can also give you a sense of spiritual wonder, a wonder at the beauty of the world and how even in endings, like the ending of the season of life, that there's renewal, and that gives way to the birth that will occur when we look at April, or look at the springtime and see the buds of the trees as well. And so each step is a step towards the next cycle. Each step that we take is a step towards rebirth. And there is beauty in that as well. Just like there's a beauty in being together and being led so wonderfully by Mark and Wendy Cohen, it's a joy to be able to share in these moments with you and be on the bima with you. And so we're going to begin celebrating the fact that we're together by singing Hine Matov, which can be found on page 10. Hine Matov on page 10.
Hine Matov Manayim, Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. 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 Shevet Achim Gam Yachad.
As the darkness of night is starting to fall earlier and earlier, lighting the Shabbat candles feels more and more meaningful as a sacred act of beating back that darkness. And not only do we do that by lighting the Shabbos candles, but we beat back the darkness with our lives and being surrounded by extraordinary people. And so it's a joy now to call upon Wendy Cohen to light our Shabbat candles. You bring so much light to our community. And if you were outside earlier at the petting zoo that is out in our outdoor chapel, which is super fun. I pet a porcupine just about 20 minutes ago. But you would have seen the light of those young children surrounding Miss Wendy and just absolutely reveling in the music that she brings. So it's only right that you should kindle these candles. So let's read responsively on page 3. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav Vitzivanu lahadlik ner Vitzivanu lahadlik ner Vitzivanu lahadlik ner Shel Shabbat.
Thank you, Miss Wendy. Let there be Shabbat light. Let there be Shabbat joy. And so we are going to turn now to page 20 as we greet the Shabbat and we greet the Shabbos bride as we turn to Lechad Odi. There's a custom that as we turn to the final verses, verse number 9, Boi v'Shalom, that we rise together as a community and face the entranceway through which we came and bow and then turn back towards the front. And there's different ways of viewing this, but certainly it means that the doors of our hearts are open with compassion to those who are entering into this place. Whether it's welcoming people or welcoming angels or welcoming the Shabbos bride, we welcome all. And so we turn now to these precious words of Lechad Odi.
Lechad Odi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nikabla, Shamor v'Zahor b'dibur echad, Yishmianu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'hitilah. Lechad Odi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nikabla, Hitoreri, Kiva Oreku Miori, Uri Shir Daberi, Kevod Adonai Alayk Nigla. Lechad Odi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nikabla. Boi v'Shalom ateret bala, Gam besimcha u'tzola, Toch emune am segula, Boi kala. Lechad Odi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nikabla.
You may be seated. Oh, you are seated. We're going to turn now to page 27 as we read responsively. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days. Lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. We turn back to page 26 for the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Yamad yivrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei kol beit Yisrael. Bagala uvizman kari v'emeru.
Amen.
Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ul'almei almaya, Yitbarach. Yitbarach vayishtabach vayitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei b'kudashah b'richu le'la min kol birchata v'shirata tush birchata v'nechemata damiran b'yalma v'yimeru. Amen.
Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence. We rise now as we turn to the call to worship on page 28.
Baruch hu et Adonai, Amevorach.
Baruch
Adonai,
Amevorach,
Amevorach,
Leolam
Vaed.
We continue now on page 30. Let's do the English at the bottom. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. We continue now with Ahavat Olam on page 32.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha Avta, Amcha Avta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai, Eloheinu b'shochbenu, Ukumenu na'asiach bechukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, Uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, ve'orech yamenu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla, ve'avadcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
as we turn from this beautiful prayer that speaks to the love that exists all around us, we turn to the oneness of the divine with the watchword of our faith, the Shema, on page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vahed.
You may be seated. We continue with Ve'ahavta on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Let's read responsively at the bottom of page 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Norati hilo no se fele. Ya la la ya la 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 la. Ya la la ya la 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 la. Ya 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 la 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 la.
We turn to page 43. If you listen carefully, you can probably hear the voices of young children coming from Clearfield Hall who had their service a little bit earlier. Let's see if we can hear them. I can hear them. They're pretty loud. And so sometimes when we turn to this prayer and we think of Hashkivenu, we think of God sending a shelter over us. And sometimes I'm thinking about our children that we expect and we hope that they'll be sheltered from the storms that can rage all around us. And so when we think of this prayer, we think of the goodness that we wish for God to bring down upon this earth and to protect us from anything that might cause harm. And so let us read together at the bottom of page 43, Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We turn now to page 44 and join together in the singing of the Shamru.
V'shameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam l'rit olam Beni uven b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam le'olam Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz uvayom Hashevi Shavat Vayinav.
Please rise.
Adonai Sefatayticha
Ufia Gitehiratecha Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi gula livnei v'neihem, L'man shemo ve'ahava, Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah gibur le'olam Adonai, Michayeh hakol atarav lahoshia, Michalkel Chaim bechesed, Michayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umkayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha b'gevurot, Umido melach, melech memit u'machaye, u'matzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh, shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. We continue reading responsively now on page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May we all rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace.
May all who hurt find healing on this day.
May all who despair find purpose.
May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day.
May this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. We continue now on page 57. Rotzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amacha Yisrael, u'tefilatam be'ava tekabel, u'tehi l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. wherever we live, wherever we seek you. In this land, and Zion restored in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, shotecha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. We turn to a prayer that reminds us to be grateful for all the gifts that come our way. On an evening like this, we might feel the gratitude for young voices that signal to us that there will be a next generation of members of this community. And we might feel grateful for the gift that comes in a night that, though it is dark, when we turn around and look at the windows, we see the reflection of the tree in them and feel that sense of light that comes from our sanctuary as we are gathered together. We might feel the gift of being together as a community, which we can't take for granted these days. So if you have reason to feel grateful this evening, I invite you to read these words at the bottom of page 59. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulcha na'eh lehodot. We are now going to turn to a prayer that we are in so much in need of, a prayer for peace, the prayer for shalom, that can be found on page 60.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom, ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav
al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam.
V'tov ve'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol et uvechol shah bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim
Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim
Leolam.
Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
It's important to turn. You know what? There's something so cathartic about hearing the voices of kids. I'll tell you that I lived in Israel during the Second Intifada, and there was something pretty extraordinary about the fact that our seminary was right next to what is called a gan, a kindergarten. So as we were studying Hebrew, but also living sort of in the shadow of what was happening around us in Jerusalem, we would be able to hear the sound of children. No matter how bad things got, hearing those little voices, it made things better. And so when we think about the need for healing in the world, and healing among individuals who might be in need of it, whether they're in need of refuat hanefesh or refuat haguf, a healing of spirit or a healing of body, When we think about the healing that's necessary in the world, that we need shalom, sometimes we can find shalem, wholeness, in unusual and very special places. And so we are thinking this evening of members of our community. And before we read these names, I just want to share with all of you, and an email is going to go out to this effect, that as we turn to this new year, this new season, we're going to be starting from scratch with our Misha Berach list. And so on that email that goes out to the congregation, there's going to be a link where if you want to add a name, that you can do that. With, if it's your name or someone that you love, make sure that you have the permission of that person before sending us that name. And we'll continue to read it each and every Shabbat, but we're going to be starting from fresh with our new list. But for this Shabbat, we are thinking of Shendel Bat Frida Melka, Julie Borikoff, Steve Toplinski, Esther Cohen, Hachazan Sarah Chelbi Yocheved Alexander, Avram Ben Naftali, Sophia Rubenstein, David Rotter, Keith Mandel, Isla Bat Natan Vashoshana, Dr. Susie Mendelson, Michaela Hellenberg, Susan Garrison, Peter Rotter, Roger Cook, Neil Pinsky, Layla Rosen, David Kleinman, Wendy Schuster, Ann Becker, Kathy Baker, Carolyn Newman, Devorah Leah, Kelly Adiniak, Ricky Spiegel, Carol Rourke Trainer, Wendy Pollock, Terry Hammond, Eli Bensman, George Grimm, Patrick Heppy, Morgan Hughes, Simon Leo and Noah Michael, Claire Vivian Gaster, Sybil Savalsky, Bruce Sherman, Shalom Ben Lazar, Cy Cohen, Harav Anat Bat Margalit, Gary Elderbrook, Olivia Jane, Lise Moulton, Jeff Berlin, Linnea Katz Pettit, Friedlin Veal, Charlene Bruton, Luca Eisenberg, Carol Miller, Shulamit Shira Bat Gittel Yehudit, and Jahari Andre King. And if there are names that should be added to this list or names that should be pronounced differently than I did, I'm inviting you to hold those names in your heart as we turn to these words of tradition. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. Blessed are you, the source of healing.
Misheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha liavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
With these beautiful words of peace still echoing in our hearts and minds, we take this time now for silent reflection for Tefillat Halev.
Say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Yaseh
Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
So I've always loved visiting Washington, D.C. And on my most recent trip, I had the chance to walk in the Rose Garden and look up at the Washington Monument. I was moved by the Lincoln Memorial, the War Memorials, the statue of Martin Luther King Jr., each telling a part of America's story. Now, stone monuments feel timeless, don't they? But they only capture fragments of history. They offer reminders, but not permanence. The true heart of a democracy perhaps is not in stone, but in the act that we'll commit ourselves to on Tuesday, the act of voting. So this Tuesday, as we head to the polls, we're surrounded by symbols of power and influence. But what we do with our vote is a reminder that our true legacy isn't about self-glorification or securing a place in history. In his poem, in the poem that Percy Shelley wrote, that is a very, very dear one to me. I studied it probably in junior high, and it's always sort of stuck with me. And it's called Ozymandias. Have you heard that poem before? It's an incredible poem. I'll read it to you. It captures sort of the downfall of a leader who thought his greatness could be etched in stone forever. Here's how it goes. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that it sculptured well those passions red, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things. The hands that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal, these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Shelley's words are a reminder that pride and monuments don't preserve greatness. And in our own tradition, the story of the Tower of Babel, which is in this week's Torah portion, Noach, speaks to that very truth. And here is the text. Now the whole world had one language and a common speech. As people moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, "Come, let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They used brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth." But the Eternal came down to the city and the tower the people were building, and the Eternal said, "If as one people speaking the same language they have begun to do this," basically God saying this is that they have chutzpah, "then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language so they will not understand each other." So the Eternal scattered them from there over all the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it was called Babel, because there the Eternal confused the language of the whole world. From there the Eternal scattered them over the face of the whole earth. The story of the Tower of Babel shows people striving to build a name for themselves, to touch the heavens with a tower of stone. But their legacy was hollow because it was rooted in this feeling of arrogance. The rabbis teach that their sins wasn't just pride, it was a desire to control their own reputation, to make themselves invincible. In seeking to build their legacy around them, they lost sight of what truly lasts, and that's community and humility and values that transcend the generations. So as we consider our choices in this election, it's worth asking what qualities make a leader's legacy endure. Our tradition reminds us that a Shem, a name, or a legacy is more than fame or titles. It's the essence of who we are and the values that we live by. True leadership doesn't seek out glory, but serves others with humility. And the Torah's legacy lives not in towers or statues, but in the hearts of those who uphold it. So the act of voting, then, is not just about choosing a representative. It's about choosing the values we want to uphold as a society. In casting our ballots, we affirm that democracy is alive in the choices we make, not just in the moments of the past, but here and now today. As Lyndon Johnson said, the vote is the most powerful instrument ever devised by man for breaking down injustice and destroying the terrible walls which imprison men because they are different from other men. Our vote in this way becomes a tool not to build monuments to ourselves, but to dismantle the walls of division and inequality that hold us back as a society together. Voting is a sacred act because it is an affirmation of our values. It is a chance to uphold justice and equality and compassion, ensuring that these principles shape the future we leave to our children and grandchildren. And through our vote, we take our place in a long chain of responsibility, a lineage that connects us to those who struggled and sacrificed to make democracy possible. And when we cast our ballots, we honor that legacy, setting the foundation for a just and compassionate society that our descendants can inherit. To vote is to make a promise to future generations, those voices that we hear. It is to declare that we care not only for our own time, but for the world of our children and the world that they will inhabit. And our vote then is not just a matter of personal preference, it is a commitment to uphold the values we hold sacred, to build a world where dignity, respect, and justice prevail. So as we cast our votes, let us remember that we're not just making choices for ourselves, we're shaping the legacy we leave behind. Each ballot is a building block in the foundation of a society where dignity and respect can flourish. And while monuments crumble and names fade, the values we uphold endure, passed down through the lives we touch and the world we shape for those who come after us. So may we vote not with self-interest, but with humility and a sense of shared purpose, knowing that democracy thrives when we all take part. May we remember that true greatness is measured not by monuments, but by the compassion, integrity, and courage with which we live and lead. And may we be worthy of our ancestors, entrusted to carry forward a tradition of justice, equality, and hope. Kenya Hiratzon. May this be God's will. We're going to turn now to a prayer for our country, which I think is appropriate this time. And that can be found on page 258, I believe, 258. So let's turn in our Siddur, and let's stand as we do so. And we're going to read together from the bottom of the page. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Amen. We turn now to the prayer for the state of Israel, which can be found on page 259. You want to sing it? All right, would you sing, Miss
Sure.
Wendy? It's a beautiful Avinu Shabbat Shamayim.
Avinu Shabbat Shamayim, Sur Yisrael v'goalo, Barechet Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Geulateinu.
O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, Bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen. And now we are going to turn to Elena, which can be found on page 282. I'd like to invite up anyone who hasn't had a bar or bat mitzvah yet. So Marie Burkhoff, come on up, and the whole Burkhoff family can come up too. Why don't you join?
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam.
ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those who have passed into life eternal, and those who we have loved and lost and claimed as our own. Particularly in our hearts and minds, we're thinking of the family of Ron Cohen, Shara Cohen, whose father, David Cohen, passed away. The funeral will be Sunday at 11 a.m. at Shalom Park in Chicago. And to his name, too, we add those for whom we are commemorating the period of Shiva. We think of Georgine Kesselman, Debbie Rice, Bernard Wessler. And to those names, too, we add those for whom we commemorate the period of Shloshim, the 30-day mourning period. We think of Irving Brotzlaw, Carol Dupin, Stan Lieberman, Beverly Mislov, Arlene Minkov. To those names, too, we think of all those who passed in this season in years gone by, and we still feel as though we walk in their footsteps and still feel their love shining down upon us. We think of Louis Appel, George Back, B.B. Burkhoff, Fern Blatt, Neil Boris, Janice Bressler, David Daniels, Zaya Dolgan, Reagan Field, Harriet Lee Frumstein, Harold Gimbel, Alana Goldman, Douglas Goldman, Jennifer Goldman, Jordan Goldman, and Joy Goldman. Isidore Green, Jody Lynn Hirsch, Francis Hirsch, George Herlock, Martin Jacob, Gerald Kahn, Manny Katz, Morton Kesselman, Stanley Kirking, Fanny Krantz, Richard Lieberman, Martin Marcus, Rose Margolis, Edward Matras, Morris Mayerson, Sylvia Melnick, Touraine Nash, Richard Pash, Fred Pearson, Barbara Pozarski, Irvin Pumpian, Zelda Rogoff, Paul Sattler, Melvin Schnoll, Gary Shovers, Joseph Schulman, Michael Spector, Andrea Jennifer Stein, Muriel Sweet, Louis Topple, Eleanor Weiss, Sarah Willens, Calvin Willinson, Eva Zoll, Lillian Hankin Zembrowski. If there are names that should be added to this list or names that should be pronounced differently than I did, please do call those names out loud as I look in your direction. In addition to the names of our loved ones, so too do we think of all those who've died due to war and/or terrorism, all those who died in defense of this nation and allied nations' ideals. We think of all of those who've died in defense of the state of Israel, as well as all those innocent victims of that war, regardless of what side of that border they are on. We think of all those who've perished due to the terrible viruses of racism and xenophobia, as well as all those who died in the Holocaust, who have no one left to recite Kaddish for them. So together as one community, we turn to words that are sanctified by memory, words glorified by hope. The Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, can be found on page 294. We rise together as a community as we recite these words together. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah, B'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mivorach leolam ulamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudisha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. We are now going to turn to words from our congregational president. And you know, I'm not certain, but I think there probably won't be a statue to you, Steve, one day. You're a Congregation Shalom. But I have to tell you that when I was thinking about leaders that lead with humility and enthusiasm and great sensitivity and great thoughtfulness, I was thinking about you. And so it is wonderful to share in the leadership of this congregation with you and to hear you present us with the announcements.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Maybe we'll do a statue.
We'll do it. There we go. There we go.
Only if the shoes are on the statue.
That's right. Those are
Some nice shoes. Wow.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. November 8th is the Sanford J. Ettinger Memorial Lecture with our guest speaker, Mordecai Lee, who's a Shalom congregant, a learned professor, erudite, observer of politics, and a former elected public official. He'll speak during our Shabbat services. This event is graciously and generously underwritten by the Sanford J. Ettinger Memorial Lecture. Those of you who may have known Sandy Ettinger, who was a very dear soul, and I was lucky to have known him. On November 10th at 10 a.m., Congregation Shalom's Voices for Justice Committee presents Food and Housing Insecurity in Our Community, a Jewish Perspective. The program will be a panel discussion featuring Sister Mackin Brown, Dan Fleischman, Heidi Gould, and moderated by our own Rabbi, Abby Phelps. There'll be a Q&A session afterwards and a light nosh to follow. November 16th, 5 p.m., we celebrate Rabbi Noah's Bar Mitzvah. Here at Congregation Shalom, he has been our rabbi for a little over 14 years now. So we're going to celebrate his 13th year on the Bima. It's an 80s themed party. There will be dancing, I promise. So please join us for that wonderful and celebratory evening. November 24th at 7 o'clock, please join us here at Shalom for our interfaith Thanksgiving service. It dates back to our founding rabbi. We do it with North Shore Presbyterian Church. This is our 68th year of worshiping together. We still have space on the adult civil rights journey that travels next year, April 23rd through 27th. We'll visit Memphis, Birmingham, Montgomery, Selma, and Atlanta and take a deep dive into the history of slavery, racism, and the civil rights movement. Also in the foyer, you'll find a brochure and a sign-up for ARZA, that's the Association for Reform Zionists of America. So every 5 years, the World Zionist Congress convenes and allocates $5 billion in Israel and abroad. It sets policies that impact Reform Jews and millions of Israelis. This includes deciding on key projects like expanding settlements or rebuilding communities affected by recent events. The global election for delegates takes place from March 10th to May 5th. While Israelis vote in Knesset elections, this vote is our chance as diaspora Jews to shape Israel's future. More votes for the Reform movement means more delegates and influence over critical issues like democracy, religious pluralism, gender equality, LGBTQ plus rights, and peace. It costs just $5 to vote. It's a small investment toward a $5 billion impact. You can sign up on the sign-up sheets. It's in PVAR foyer, and commit to voting this spring. There's a lot of voting to be done this spring, next spring, and then this next week. So we'll keep you updated on the campaign, and we encourage your commitment and to making this an exceptional society. I wish you Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Steve. We are now going to turn to the Kiddush. And Mark, will you lead us in the Kiddush? We're going to rise together. Our cups are always overflowing with blessings to be led so beautifully by Mark and Wendy. And so let's sing together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit Ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim Ki banu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha Be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai B'kadesh HaShabbat Amen.
L'chaim.
So let's turn now to our closing hymn for the Shabbat, which is...
Oh, it's going to be something different.
Do we have to learn new words? What do you
Kind
think?
of.
Kind
Maybe
of?
just think about the beauty of the world.
Oh, very nice. All right, let's hear it.
Clouds lift, sun breaks through, a day of beauty, a gift from you. Mountains rise, wind calls my name. Each day renews creation, never quite the same. And I thank you for the beauty of the world. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekacha lo bi'olamo shekacha lo bi'olamo. And I thank you for the beauty of the world.
Beautiful. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.